Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are now joined once again by Andrew Aaron, one of our favorite psychotherapists, marriage counselor, sex therapist, so much more. Welcome to the show again today, Andrew. How are you?
I'm really good, Jill. Thank you so much for having me on, and it's a pleasure to be here with you once again.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here. Just to establish again who you are, I may know, and some of our listeners and viewers are ready, but please fill us in how we could get in touch with you. Give us a little bit of your background, and we are looking forward to the conversation today.
Sure. For more than the past 25 years, I've been helping individuals and couples love better, right? And I do that by being a marriage counselor, a sex therapist, a relationship therapist, and an individual psychotherapist. And I sit with people hour after hour, week, month, and year, learning about what interferes for them with loving in a satisfying way. And my patients through the years have taught me what it's like to be human. Of course, I have some personal experience in that as well. And what it's like to try to love and to have love be interfered with different difficult emotions. And so I've developed some skill and some understanding about how to help people connect, get closer. And in my role as a sex therapist, of course, to help people have more pleasure and more fun in those moments when they can be really intimate.
Great. So why don't we start with the topic then of learning how to love more and learning how to love and making that actually last and stick. Can we go down that path first?
Absolutely. Of course, it's a issue that's close to my heart because on a daily basis, I really want to help people to have better lives. And one of the most important factors that determines the quality of our life, Jill, is the quality of our love relationship, right? Nothing has more of an impact on how we feel and whether we enjoy our life than the quality, the connection we have with the important person with whom we've invited to share our life. And when we love, this is a really, really difficult task because as soon as we start to love another, we bump right into our obstacles to love, right? As human beings, it would be wonderful if we were all just really good at loving. But the reality is that we're not very good at it, right? Our old wounds, our personal limitations, our internally held pain, any kind of resentments or anger, these all stop us from loving. And most of us grow up with many of these, right? It's not easy to grow up to be a human being like you, like me. It's not easy when we're born. We can't speak. We can't say what we need. And for most of us, we are born into a family where, well, despite the best efforts, our parents don't know how to love all that well. So we grow up with wounds. We grow up with limitations. Our personal definitions of love often are misdirected and untrue in terms of what love is and what it takes to both love another and be loved by another. It's really, really difficult. And so
we also have to love our own self too, which is hard for us to learn to love ourselves, which sometimes could be a problem. I know for sure. And I'm sure you would agree, right? Because in order to love, you need to love yourself first. Isn't that true?
Well, that's an excellent point. And of course, I'm glad you brought it up because that is the essence of the truth, isn't it? It's an often repeated phrase that all love starts with loving ourselves. And I find that most of us do not love ourselves, and most of us don't even know that we don't love ourselves. And so that's often the first piece in work with somebody who comes to me saying, I want to love better, or I want a better love relationship, better marriage, is to actually become conscious of the reality that we're complicated beings and we often don't even love ourselves and don't even know it, right? When we have a lot of internalized pain or we're upset with our own limitations, or we feel bad inside our body, or we feel bad about our body. All these form obstacles and impediments to loving ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And if we're not able to love ourselves, we won't be open to another person, right? And that's an essential ingredient in allowing love to stay when we connect with another, is that both I am and my partner is open to receiving love, but also openness is required in order to effectively give love,
Yeah,
right?
that's powerful. Yeah, it's true.
And it starts with loving ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It sure does. And healing our wounds and being patient with ourselves, right? It's not easy to be a woman. It's not easy to be a man. It's not easy to be human. And I find in people's process of growth, in order to love more effectively, a lot of it starts with forgiving ourselves for being human,
Mm-hmm.
right? For our essential limitations, because we screw things up a lot,
For sure.
right? We make lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
We cause hurt to others and to ourselves, and then we get angry at ourselves. So this is one of the big obstacles to allowing love to stay, is patience with ourselves and the ability to forgive both ourselves for our real life human limitations, as well as to forgive a partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? Very, very important. It takes a lot of strength to do that, Jill.
Well, is there, I mean, I know this is only a half hour a session here. Any advice on how we can work on building up our own worth and love for ourselves? And, on a daily basis, any tips that you can give us that we could start doing to really start loving from within in order to open up to receive that love from someone else fully? Or even, how to forgive. How do we do this?
I think it starts with both understanding what our expectations are and understanding what are more reasonable and realistic expectations, right? A lot of us have unrealistic expectations about our capacities,
Mhm.
about our capabilities,
Of course.
about what really this thing is called being human.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right? We're not perfect beings.
Yep.
We're human beings. And that means that when we make mistakes, just like when we have a little child, right? That we can expect our little child to do everything right the first time.
Mm.
And in fact, we can't even expect our child to do things right the 100th time,
No.
right? And if we are gentle with ourselves, if we apply some of those same expectations to ourselves, because in many ways, Jill, we are actually in our hearts little children also. We're as sensitive as a little baby. We can be hurt so easily, just like a little baby. When you look at the baby harshly with mean eyes, the baby bursts into tears because just that look hurt the baby and caused him or her to cry.
Yeah.
And in our hearts, we're actually not much different than that. We can be hurt very, very easily. And we are harmed by ourselves when we're harsh with ourselves, right? So if we soften our expectations and make those expectations more realistic, and we're more gentle with ourselves, and we align our expectations with reality. We're not perfect beings. We learn through our mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes, which if we're open to it and we don't call ourselves a failure,
Hmm.
then we're going to learn from those mistakes. And there's a chance we won't make that mistake 20 times. We'll only make it 10 times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the pain we go through. And a certain degree of suffering and pain is a normal part of the human journey.
Yeah.
And some of us have the unrealistic expectations that we shouldn't feel pain. And so because we do, we're a failure, or we're bad, or we're not good enough, right? And it creates a cycle, an emotional cycle of harshness and actual disconnection from ourselves.
Got
So this is the first part, is starting to become more gentle with ourselves, more patient, having realistic expectations. So we're not internally in a battle with ourselves. You see, when this happens, and when we do not love ourselves, we do not like ourselves, in fact, we hate ourselves, which is the truth for many, many people, we're essentially locked in a battle.
Yeah.
And what that means is that we are occupied. We're occupied, engaged in this battle. So we are not actually free to be open
And
to give or receive love from another or the partner that we have.
got it. Wow.
Okay. And we're also therefore occupied in a battle of pain. And so we're not sufficiently sensitive to his or her needs or feelings. And unintentionally, we can then be hurtful,
Yeah. Wow.
right?
Which, I mean, kind of leads us, we're kind of talking about emotions, right? Isn't that kind of what you want to
Absolutely.
go next with this? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And locked in this battle, we then tend to have a whole lot of negative and painful emotions. And it's cyclical, right? We go round and round and feeling bad inside. And a lot of, we're complex beings. A lot of these emotions we bury outside of our conscious awareness. So we even lose knowledge, conscious knowledge that this is actually what's happening deeper down. And so that causes us to feel out of control. We don't feel like we can be successful because we don't even know why we're doing what we're doing. We are acting from unconscious emotion.
Hmm.
Right. So in order to become more conscious and to become more effective at loving, which means we are producing, Jill, the effect we want to produce. All right. We want to cause our partner to feel valued and loved. And because we are conscious of what's going on inside us, now we have the capacity, the strength, the wherewithal to produce the effect we intend. But if we're not conscious of our inner process, then we produce effects that we do not intend, and we're sad,
Yeah.
right? And then that's cyclical, right? That's a whole nother reason to hate ourselves. Look, I failed. I'm getting rejected.
Wow.
I'm no good, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a world of hurt, a world of hurt.
Yeah. And it's that
And
hamster wheel, that vicious cycle.
and my passion and my daily intention
Help
is to help
function.
people so they're escaping that cycle of pain, of hating themselves, of increasing their capacity and their capabilities, their competency at loving themselves, and therefore being more capable of loving another, right?
And what is your website?
My website is helpforpassion.com. That's help, FOR, passion.com. And there's a lot of resources there. Even if somebody isn't interested in actually becoming engaged in therapy or couples therapy, they can go onto my website and read a lot of the writing that I have there that is posted on my website just to help people without any obligation of cost or time involvement, right? And there's writings there. There's some books. There's free material for download, but there's also some paid material, some books that I've written. There's an online course there
So
called.
modest. Some books. Can you clarify the books you've written, please?
Oh yeah, there's. I completed a book not long ago, mostly for men, but also for the people who love those men.
Uh-huh.
And that book is called "When Soft Is Hard,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's a book for men who are having trouble maintaining an erection.
Yeah.
Right? The men who are stuck in the vicious cycle of sexual performance anxiety.
Mm.
It's a terrible, terrible trap that men, especially men who are challenged with issues of anxiety and low self-esteem, they get caught in this vicious cycle of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that is when the men are afraid they won't be able to perform and satisfy their female partners, then in fact, they cannot succeed. And they do then fail to satisfy their partners and themselves. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And couples caught in this trap experience tremendous suffering and disappointment
Oh,
and shame and often
and
disconnection.
blame, thinking that it's something's
Yes.
wrong with me, that he's not performing, and what did I do wrong? And it's got to be hard for the female to understand with the males going through, and vice versa. It's hard for everyone. And then a lot of times it is uncomfortable conversation, but to know the fact there's someone out there like yourself who this is your job as a sex therapist, as a licensed professional. These are all real and true feelings and true emotions and problems. So, it's good to go someplace that you can feel comfortable with and to find someone like you. So clearly you can work with couples through this or individuals through this process. And the counseling that you do, the therapy that you do, can I ask you, can a lot of times performance anxiety be, I don't want to say the word cured, be fixed, or can it get better with just therapy alone? Some people might want to run to drugs, but therapy alone, that can help with performance anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. However, a lot of men and their partners are not sure at first whether this is a physically based problem
True.
or an emotionally based problem. And so they usually do first run to their physician, and the physician, usually not all that aware of the dynamics of this problem, do prescribe pro-erection medication or send the man for a test regarding levels of testosterone. However, typically the medicine may help in a short-lived way, and then the problem returns. And usually the man or the couple then realize truly this is an emotionally based problem. It's all in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why someone like me, a sex therapist, can help dramatically to help overcome this difficulty and help these couples escape from this powerful and very destructive trap.
And to know that it's real, this exists. You've worked with so many people with this problem. A lot of people feel alone, they feel embarrassed, uncomfortable, and it's like, no, they're not alone, right? It's
That's right.
good to
No,
know that we all have issues for whatever it is, and that's why
that's right.
specific people like there that can help. And even men and women, I know a lot of times you help them achieve orgasms. Some men and women can't even do that, right? I mean, that's a mental issue, emotional issue. Could it be a physical issue? All the above.
Yeah, the same dynamics that are involved in the sexual performance anxiety function in different ways in both men and women regarding certain aspects of sexual functioning, but also even outside the bedroom, above the sheets, right? Certain issues of performance anxiety, such as like a student who develops anxiety regarding taking an exam, right? It's a very similar dynamic. There's an aspect of sexuality that's really challenging for some women, a condition called vaginismus, that the same dynamic is functioning. When a woman experiences pain during intercourse, she then anticipates pain the next time, which causes her to be hesitant, which makes the experience more painful the next time. And it's cyclical, it gets worse and worse. And it's an anxiety-based problem called vaginismus, the same dynamic in the female world, that sexual performance anxiety in the way it functions in the masculine world, right? And I've written a book about this. It's on Amazon, called When Soft is Hard. And I strongly encourage men who are struggling with sexual confidence to check this book out. Not very expensive, and it can make a world of difference to relieve them of tremendous suffering just by performing the exercises that I provide in this not very large book, right? But of course, they can call me, and face to face, it's also a very powerful way to address the many specific issues, often rooted in what we're talking about before, Jill, and that is self-hate,
Mm-hmm.
as well as fear, right? That results in this very difficult problem.
Great. Well, also, I know you wanted to discuss further a little bit. We're skipping our break in regards to orgasms in general for couples, for people, individuals, the importance of that, right? For self, for relationships. I think you wanted to dive into that a little bit further today.
Yeah, that's always a very, very interesting topic. The topic for many people about tremendous curiosity, um, because, of course, orgasms associated with great pleasure, right? But also it's associated with our bodies and sex and our sex parts. So these issues are often the source of great shame and discomfort for a great many people. And as a result, orgasm itself is the source of trouble for many people. And those who are not comfortable with their bodies, or not comfortable with sex, or not comfortable with a requirement of a good sexual experience, and that is openness and vulnerability, right? If we are not relaxed, if we are not able to be completely open, which of course is essential for love, but also for good sexual experience, then it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to reach the state of high excitement needed for an orgasm, right? A really interesting fact is that men are biologically provided with the experience of orgasm. A young man or a pubescent boy has the experience of orgasm naturally and automatically, oftentimes in the form of what's called a wet dream. It just happens biologically. Interestingly enough, women do not have an equivalent. Women do not actually have a natural occurring orgasm. Women have to learn about this. And there are actually a whole lot of women who never learn about orgasm.
Yeah.
And they never have the experience. And yet it appears to be true that every woman in potential has the capacity to achieve orgasm. But of course, there are lots of impediments, and that is the shame, the embarrassment, the discomfort with sex, the discomfort with bodies, and our ability to relax. And some of that, Jill, is coming from just what we were talking about earlier, our ability to love ourselves, our ability to forgive ourselves, our ability to be at peace and present in the moment, because those are important requirements to get to the state of orgasm. For many people, but mostly women struggle with this because of that biological difference.
Yeah.
Right? Many women unconsciously have blocked that pathway because they have grown up with tremendous anxiety, or it's built up through many life circumstances, attitudes, or beliefs about themselves. And they're not able to get to the level of being relaxed in order to allow the sexual energy to flow in their body, because that's really what arousal and excitement and orgasm are all about, is our ability within our bodies to allow the excited energy to flow and cycle within our bodies, not just in our hips and our pelvis and our sex parts, right? And this allows that excited energy to grow to a very high state. And it's the release of this excitement that produces this thing called orgasm, right? And many partners have this expectation that orgasm should be a part of sexual experiences. And as a result, for many people who are struggling to be orgasmic, right, this issue, this problem, or this obstacle now becomes a big problem in their relationship because of disappointed partners or shame and self-disappointment, right? And this becomes a big issue, right?
And is there any statistics to make people feel so not alone? I mean, how many, and you would know best, people suffer from this type of disorder? Men, women, I mean, a lot, I'm assuming.
Well, I have some rough statistics regarding women, not so many regarding men. Men don't tend to have this problem as a group. There are certain factors for men that do cause this problem. There is something known as inhibited ejaculation, and that often is an anxiety-based problem. Some men, of course, have health problems, and that interferes. But it's different for women. Women are much more likely to have emotionally based anorgasmia, or a trouble reaching orgasm. For women, the truth is that it's about 2/3 of women who do not achieve orgasm at all through intercourse. And that's a large number of women,
Oh,
right? And yet there's a myth about orgasm. And that myth is that intercourse should always result in orgasm.
yeah.
And biologically, that doesn't make sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our bodies as women means that our clitoris is not involved in the experience of intercourse. It's outside the vagina. Whereas men, the most sensitive spot on a man's body, the equivalent of the clitoris, is on the tip of his penis, and it's involved in intercourse.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it's actually, and there's an article on my website about this, and it's called Anatomically Unfair. And what it's about is how intercourse is a very different experience for males and females.
Yeah.
So as a result, orgasm does not come naturally for most women during intercourse, yet there's often unrealistic expectations for it.
Yeah.
All right. So about 2/3 of women do not experience orgasm through intercourse. 1/3 of that group on occasion will. There's 1/3 of women who do experience orgasm from intercourse, but most of those not consistently every time.
Yeah.
And those are usually are women who they're very comfortable with their sexuality, they're relaxed in their body, and they, because they're more relaxed and at peace with their body and more comfortable with sexuality, they've learned to move this energy around their body.
Got it. And
Right.
at this time, I apologize, Andrew, but we must go. Yeah, we're out of
No, really?
And yes.
We were having such a great time.
I know. I feel bad cutting you short. Helpforpassion.com. Tell us how to contact you.
Absolutely. Please feel free. I invite you to visit me at helpforpassion.com, help, F-O-R, passion.com, and learn some things, explore, take advantage of the materials there. And if you need some therapy to help solve a problem, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Reach out.
Great. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Everyone else, stay tuned. Of course, more of the shows coming right up after the break.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.